You see, we want to talk about growth and then how our environment actually programs us as we move along. We can't talk about growth without talking about our environment. In the same way, we can't also talk about our environment and then not also talk about our brain. Do you also know that the brain is actually ranked as one of the most complex internally embedded systems in the human body that defines and shapes it shapes a person both internally and externally. You see, the brain actually on its own cannot ultimately make you what you want to become. It feeds on external factors that it can reach to or that are reaching to the brain. So all your five senses contributes to the brain in defining what you are and what you can become. If I say this is more like your brain is the engine for your growth and change. Your eyes, your ears, your tongue, your skin, and even your nose are teachers who mold what you become by directing the brain on what to do. So if we are talking about how your environment programs you today, I want you to think across this very trajectory. We are not just talking about environment as your surroundings. We are talking about your social environment. We are talking about your mental environment. We are talking about your intellectual environment. We are talking about your cultural environment. Everything that sends signals into your head to define who you become. Everything. Your eyes, your nose, your tongue, your ears, and your skin. All these things will send signals to your brain to define you. So this is what we are discussing today. We are going to look at how the environment is doing everything possible to program you the way you are not even expecting. So, Emmanuel, with this that I have said, what is your thoughts? What do you think, or what is your thought when it comes to how our environment actually helps define who we are?
Okay, so Michael, thank you very much. You see, you have already mentioned the whole thing and you have summarized it briefly. But do you also know that, you see, our environment is the only space that shapes our behavior without permission? And most people don't really pay attention to it. That most of the things that we see, the ones that we hear, the words that we say, the people we keep around us, they mold our lives, like you mentioned, and they have a greater impact in us or greater impact on our lives. And like I mentioned, it is the only space that can mold or shape every human being's life without permission. Time will not even allow me to explain more, but it is also said that if you want to know or if you want to predict the future of someone, don't look at his goals, but look at his tables. That is a very popular statement. And when we say look at his table, we are talking about looking at the people he eats with, the people he sits with, the people he chat with, and those he surround or share his life with. Those are the people that influence the person's life. And so today's topic is it's going to be very important that our audience should pay attention to. And I believe that at the end of it all, our lives will be very transformed. I have few questions, and of course I've written down so many questions. And I believe that at the end of this podcast will impact so many people's life. To break the whole conversation down, Michael, I've always been thinking about this whole thing. What does it mean when we say someone or our environment is programming us? When we pick it from that angle, your environment is programming you. What does that mean to you?
So if we say our environment is actually programming us, you see, it actually means exactly what it is saying. Your environment is, your brain is not a fixed neutral processor. Like I said before, it is an adaptive organ that is constantly being shaped by inputs. Like, my first submission, I made all these things. You see, every conversation you have, every piece of content you consume, every person you spend your time with, like you said, every neighborhood you walk through, every standard you are surrounded with, all these things will become data. They become data that are actually sent to your brain automatically. And your brain is processing that data and building a model of reality from it. So it's more like it sends the data to your brain processes it, and your brain actually tells you that this is your reality. That being said, it can actually build a model that tells you what is normal, what is possible, and what is dangerous. And actually, it can even tell you it can tell you what you deserve. So everything that we believe that we think is normal is because of the data that our brain has processed over the years. Everything that we think and we think that it is dangerous is because of how our brain has been able to process all these things over the years. All these things are data that the brain has processed over the time. So it drives every decision that you make, every decision you make in your life become. So that is one huge thing I just wanted to let out of the box. You see, often than not, okay, we don't realize how deep this goes. It means that everything cultural, everything education, everything entertainment, everything religious, all these things that has been put together, they are all systems put together to make sure that it is able to mold you to become what you have to become. So in general, most percentage of the time, we don't even have options on creating our reality. There's a saying that we are the captain of our own boats. We can be able to control or create our own destinies and all that. Yes, it's true, but you create that reality. Let me also blow your mind. You know, neuroscience also calls this process neuroplasticity.
Neuroplasticity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It calls this process neuroplasticity. That is the brain physically rewiring itself based on the repeated exposure you have. The brain actually wires itself around that. And this is actually biology. So the thoughts you think most frequently become the neural pathways that your brain defaults to. So what you are thinking constantly, the brain actually sees it as this is what you want to become, and it begins to actually take that pathway. If you understand the brain as an AI, the things you're going to tell the AI learns from it. So over time, it does its intelligence based on the things you are telling it. So now when it is replying you, it's replying you according to your thought pattern. That is how the brain works. And also note that most adults that are walking around right now are making life decisions and choosing careers and choosing their partners and their careers and everything based on all these model that the brain has made them to become. So if you grew up in an environment where, let me give you an example, that there was a time that we went into a place to do missions, and when we got there, I intentionally asked little children what they want to become in the near future. Huge percentage of the children all told me they want to become farmers. They want to become farmers because in that community, farming is the topmost most respected occupation that is in the community. So any child that says he wants to become a farmer, he sees him with pride. But then you are coming from a different society or a different environment, you see that and you quickly see that there's a problem. This is exactly how people who are higher than us will see it. So what you know right now, it will surprise you to know that it is still mediocre, that you meet someone else and the person's environment supersedes what you say. That is why it is always good to unlearn. Let me end it here.
That's so powerful. You see, the issue about this neuroplasticity you mentioned, it also forms our belief system. I'm just trying to sitting back here. I'm just thinking about the children you met and what they are seeing. So rightly, the environment has rewired their mind to focus on certain particular standard, and which of course we all need to understand. I'm just trying to let us understand that, you see, what we believe as individuals or what we accept in our lives from what you are saying, rewire identity in life. It rewires identity. I have a very simple question that I always ask people around, that how much of what we believe is actually ours, or how much of, I don't know if you understand the question I'm asking, but I'm trying to find out that how much of the things that we believe in our societies, in our environment, actually becomes our own, that we live with, and then how much of it becomes a reflection of what we are exposed to. I hope you really understand this thing, because I'm trying to get it from this angle.
You see, The majority of our beliefs, like we have been saying all this while, the majority of our beliefs about money, about success, and about relationships, about what we are capable of doing, about what kind of people deserve what kind of life, and so on. All these things basically are actually wired down. It's wired down to what your environment has dictated. And it is also wired down to what people or what our parents have actually taught us, what our culture has actually taught us, what our religion has actually taught us, and what our education system has taught us. And even what the media has also conveyed into our systems. Do you understand? All these things form part of the defining the defining systems that we are talking about. So you may say that yes, I am becoming this, but the reality is that most of the things are being defined by what you are surrounded by. And here is a critical problem that we don't realize. We don't actually experience inherited beliefs as inherited. We experience them as truth. It becomes our truth. Beliefs become our truth. It becomes our reality. It becomes just the way things are gone. A person who grew up being told that rich people are greedy will unconsciously self-sabotage every time they get close to financial success.
That's right.
They will self-sabotage it. Not because they decided to do that, but you see, because somewhere deep in their thought patterns, wealth became associated with character flaws, corruption, theft, and all these things. It is important to get your finances together and then get your life together in order that anytime you are building your life, you don't become dependent on other people. Because if you want to build your own life, the core of it becomes your character, your loyalty, and your finances. So if these things are in place, you are able to build yourself very well. You see, there are people who genuinely don't believe that people can make billions on their own. They don't believe it. They don't see how it is possible. They don't see it. There are people who will see $1 million, they will not know what to do with it. And there are people who will see $1 million and they will misappropriate it. They will think that they are using it well, but they are misappropriating it. So in reality, they think that they are using it for what good it can be used for, but they have not been programmed to know how to use $1 million. So your society, what your mother has taught you, what your father has taught you, what you have seen happening around you, what your uncles have believed in, all these things has become a strong wiring and programming that is limiting you when it comes to your own. Most of us have actually wrestled so much with this ideology of environment shaping people for centuries. But one of the most practical modern example I can actually give is about a man called Roger Bannister. You see, he's a British athlete who in 1954 became the first human to run a mile in under 4 minutes. This is the first person to run a mile under 4 minutes. You see, before he did it, the entire athletic and medical community believed it was physically impossible. That belief was so universal. It was so universal that people believed that it was literally impossible to run under 4 minutes in a mile. So no one had even come close in breaking that particular thing. Then Bannister came to break it, and within 12 months, 16 other athletes broke it too. Do you know what that means? The physical barrier was never real. It was never real. You see, it was environmentally engineered. As soon as one person did it, you realize that 16 different people came to break that same record. So your environment actually can program you, and it has a huge percentage of programming around you as you grow.
Made mention that the physical barrier wasn't real. I want us to cast our minds back a little bit. Can we help ourselves? I know that you made mention about the society, systems, and all. how do we
Yeah.
practically identify some of the systems that are shaping us? How do we identify systems or societies, environments that are really shaping us wrongly?
You can only
Yes.
identify an environment that is shaping you wrongly if you yourself have been able to come to a realization you want to get out of that environment. Let me explain. You see, you must first of all question it. Is this the only limit I can achieve? Is this the only place I can be able to work? Is this the only place or the only thing I can do? Let me give you an example. Imagine a person who attended a school where the school didn't have enough amenities or enough infrastructure to be able to help him to become what he wants to do. So for instance, someone wants to become something like maybe a biostatistician or anything. Now, he goes to a school and the school teaches him well, but then all about it was theory. After going through the theory and everything, he still lives in a country. He lives in an economy where there is no statistician in that country. You don't even know if there are even any biostatistician in the country. Now, this person now comes to a realization that he or she has gone to school and these things they went to learn are not even well implemented in where they are. So they begin to ask themselves questions that they didn't make a mistake by studying what they studied. When you begin to ask yourself those questions, you begin to realize that some things begin to shape in your mind. So first thing that you have to do is to begin to question the environment. You have to question what is going on around you. When you start questioning it and you begin to see the reality around it, you begin to see that what you want to do, someone else is being able to do it here. Someone else is being able to do it here. Then it tells you that something is wrong with your programming. Something is wrong with how you are. Because your questions are answered by seeing other people achieving what you want to achieve. So something is wrong. Then you come to a next stage. The next stage is that I know these and these are wrong. What am I supposed to do about it? What you now do about it is what most people do when they realize that their environment is not good. What they do is that they begin to seek information, seek what is going on, what is wrong. How do they do it? They do it by changing their environment. If you are changing your environment, I'm not talking about your physical location. You are changing the kind of people you are talking to. You are changing the kind of books you read. You are changing the kind of podcasts you listen to. You are changing the kind of mentorship that you get. When you begin to change all these things around you, automatically you begin to break the wall around you. You begin to break them down. You begin to break them down. You begin to see some possibilities that were there that you were not seeing in the first place. So when you come to that realization, a lot of people get into that space and they see that the environment was limiting them through the books they read. They see that the environment was limiting them through the people they begin to listen to. Who are the people you are listening to? Who are the people who are defining what you can become? When you begin to identify these things, your reality begins to change. Haven't you seen stories of people who came from poor background and now built generational wealth? All these people had a switch in environment, and that environment is not just a physical location. It is their company, the company they kept. It is the books they read. It is the people they met. It is the kind of room they entered. Until you enter into a room that challenges you, you will never know your environment is destroying you. That is one thing you should know. Until you enter a room that challenges you, you will never know how weak your environment has made you. I listened to an interview of a millionaire, and then this is someone who's worth over $40 million. And then he was asked how he feels about his wealth. The answer he gave them was that he entered into a room, and in that room, all the people sitting in that room were talking about signing contracts worth at least $50 billion. That was the day he realized that he was joking. Until you enter into a room that challenges you, you may never know how limited you have become due to your environment and people you have surrounded yourself with.
That's so powerful. This is like a crown touch. Thank you very much. It's very, very important. You have made very sensitive comments in some of the statements that you made right now. But listen, I just want to take some, maybe like 60 seconds of your time to declassify this statement. Is exposure only about traveling from your home country to another country? Is exposure, because the reason I'm saying this, it looks like all your submissions, especially with with the Milon, whoever, like the submissions you've made, it is not just about location. It is not just about your physical place. It is not just about moving. Can you help us to deconstruct this? Because it is a very serious topic. Because most people believe that sometimes people living in their country, they don't even make any change. But the moment they travel, the moment they move out, then they begin to do so many things. Can we deconstruct it? Can we declassify that statement? Is it always about movements, traveling?
Let me make a very crucial statement.
Okay.
You can be close to the president of the United States and you are still not exposed.
Hold on. Did you just say that?
Yeah.
Huh?
You can be close to Elon Musk and you are still not exposed to how to succeed.
Tell us more.
Exposure does not necessarily mean your physical environment or a change in location. Don't you know of people who have changed locations? They left their country and they went to the US, they went to Canada, wherever, and they actually became poor. They died and they came to bury them in their hometown.
Yeah.
Haven't you gone out and met people who are still struggling, even though they've changed location? So location does not warrant exposure. What warrants exposure is your depth of information you have swallowed into your system.
That's powerful. That's a salient point, man. Thank you.
Yes.
Wow.
Information begets exposure. If you don't have information, you can never be exposed. You cannot be exposed on what to do. There are people in their home countries, they are privy to information, they are privy to how systems are working, and they are making things happen for themselves. They are exposed through knowledge. They are exposed through mentorship. They are exposed through trying, experiencing. I spoke about experiential growth. So the fact that they've been able to go out there, they started a business and the business failed. They went into debt. Now they've been able to come out of the debt. So now when they are starting a new business, they have a knowledge and information that someone else does not have. They know how not to do a business. Do you get the difference? It's not they know how to do a business. It's they know how not to do a business. Yes, that is exposure. They have had their exposure through experience. People can have exposure through mentorships. So exposure is not just about location. Exposure can also come through introduction. Who has introduced you to your next level? Who has introduced you to who can take you to the next level? And before anybody can even introduce you, you must be able to come out of your mediocre environment, make yourself valuable, because only men of value can be introduced into a realm that they can be exposed to what they need to know.
That's right.
Just to summarize, exposure goes beyond location. Exposure is deeply rooted in creating value for yourself. If you're a young person and you don't have value, you don't have a high level of value you can produce into the society. Do you know, I was going to make a very controversial statement, but I had to pause. But the reality is that when I see African youth, there is one trend that is going on. And that trend is because we are not exposed and we don't like to learn.
That's so powerful. And it's very emotional. Like I always say, some of the things we discuss here is meant to help our people. It's meant to help our people grow, become aware of what they are going through. Have you also observed that, you see, in every country, the richest men or the richest people, they always live in their own country. I don't know if you have taken notice of it. It baffles my mind. Talk of every rich people that all living in their own country doing well. So it is not just always about traveling, just moving, which we are not trying to say exposure or even visiting a place is bad. We are trying to say that you have to be aware of yourself. Like you mentioned, it's a fraction of it. And that's the point.
Yeah, it's a fraction of it. Let me emphasize on that point. Okay. Relocating from where you are exposes you to new systems you never knew about.
Okay.
It doesn't warrant your automatic success. It only exposes you to new systems that you can take advantage of. So your lack of knowledge on how to use the system to your advantage will still cause you to fail.
Okay.
So relocating is good. Relocation in itself doesn't doesn't literally warrant that someone is going to make a good use of himself, but it exposes them to different systems that they can use to build themselves. I just wanted to make that very clear.
So which means that if we don't take advantage of the systems, there's no way we can see growth, regardless of the change we have gone through, like the change of the environment, which is very, very important.
So to end, all I will say is this: your environment is shaping you. Your environment is programming you based on the things you've watched before, based on the things you've heard, the things you are listening to on social media, the things you are listening to on YouTube, the things you are listening to everywhere, even the things you taste, the kind of food you tasted in your mouth, the things you taste. That is why it is even difficult for you to taste any other culture's food. It's not because the food is not good. It's because your brain has been wired and has given you an identity. You cannot step out of that identity. As soon as you step out of that identity, you have broken that wall. So even your taste shapes you. And that is how your brain has been wired to believe it. So you get into a different society, you have to unlearn all these things to adapt to their system. So everyone listening to us, you have an obligation to learn through information, learn through mentorship, or getting introduced into a room or a space where people are higher than you. When you associate with people that are higher than you, automatically they pull you out of the environment that you're struggling with, and your identity becomes solid. You begin to get new identity through the new exposure, the new friendship, the new networks and everything that you build around you.
That's so powerful. Thank you very much. Thank you. I don't know how to even say this, but I am very grateful. And I believe that this is a very important conversation, that if people will pay attention, their life, like I always say, their life will be transformed. Last point that I want to make from my side is that our people should understand that, you see, you cannot be greater than an environment that is not aligning with where you are going. So if your environment, as we have explained, the environment, which we are not talking about physical location, if your environment is not shaping you positively, make sure you do something about it. That's the best thing I can say. Yeah.
All right. So thank you all for being with us again on this episode. We thank you for always staying with us, and we want you to share, like this video, and subscribe, as every week we bring you different level of understanding and different level of growth that will help shape your life. And see you in our next video. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.